He is the team leader and the division and branch manager for Pennsylvania, North Carolina, the Commonwealth of Virginia, and Washington, D.C. The man moves mountains for his clients. I have legitimately seen it firsthand. And frankly, I think if you just ask around the community, you'll hear what Scott's been doing. Anywhere you are watching, sit back, relax, and enjoy. The show specializes in real estate, life, and the pursuit of freedom through financial independence. I think that's kind of what we specialize in, right?
Yeah, I like that. That's
life and the pursuit of freedom through financial independence. Judah Wickower in the house as well. Keith Smith in the house. The show is live on every social media platform known to mankind. We then chop the show up post-program and create sizzle reel content for your personal enjoyment. If you have questions that you'd like to ask or offer Scotty Moe, Scott Morris, or Keith Smith, put them in the feed, and we will relay those questions live on air. I'd like to highlight some of the folks watching: Bellamy Brown, Kyle Irvin, Kevin Higgins, Bill McChesney, Patty Rowe, Kevin Yancey, Lisa Costello, Bobby Yarborough in Redfield, Holly Foster, Thomas Leroy, Nikki Chambliss, Jason Howard, Carrie Rock, Sarah Hill Buchensky, Jamie Turner, Spencer Howard, Jen Finazzo, Philip Hamilton, Dave Norris, Woody Fincham, Nora Gaffney, Andre Xavier, the Mayor Lloyd Snook, Nick the Quick Ward, Jeffrey Fogel, the list goes on. Judah Wickower, how you feeling? You ready to rock and roll? Looking sharp there, J-Dubs.
No sweater today.
I know. Oh, but he does have an undershirt.
Oh, well, there you go.
Is it a long sleeve undershirt? Oh, it's a short sleeve undershirt. So get out of town, Judah. I like it.
You gotta watch out, you might get a tan.
Do you tan, J-Dubs?
Not really.
Okay.
Sorry, J-Dubs, I'm sorry I did that to you. A little bit.
He tans a little bit. Some people call that tan, others call it burnt.
Yeah, I roll with two shades. I've got red and I've got white. Pick one. Which one you want?
Scotty Moe likes to say, all I am is a dumb redneck from Fluvanna. Isn't that what your phrase?
That's right.
That's your phrase. Right. But I always push back on that because I've seen what the man has done for his clients. All right, J-Dubs, let's rock and roll. Good Wednesday morning, guys. My name is Jerry Miller, and this is Real Talk with Keith Smith. Thank you kindly for joining us. It's an absolute pleasure to connect with you through the I Love Seaville Network on a show today presented by Ross Mortgage and Scott Morris. The man moves mountains for his clients. The man is who you should call if you'd like to finance a home purchase, a vacation property, or refinance your current home. Scott Morris of Ross Mortgage. Judah Wickower, our director, Keith Smith, the distinguished gentleman, on set today, and that makes us quite happy. This is 2 days in a row that Keith Smith has been on set. I love him.
It didn't even take.
I love him dearly. He knows I do. Judah Wickower, let's studio camera and maybe a 3-shot. Gentlemen, it's a Wednesday. Good morning.
Good morning. What is happening in the wide world? We got Jerome Powell talking again today. Nothing dramatic happening in the market, so he must not be saying anything super newsworthy at the moment.
Why don't we start with some content here for Judah Wickower. Scotty Moe, the show is yours. Ross Mortgage, Scott Morris. What are you following right now?
Right now I'm following Jerome Powell, who's speaking at the moment, who's talking about softening in the job market, and we've seen a pretty stable rate over the past week. We'd like to see some improvement, and I do believe that is coming under the same measures that I've been marking all year. Fourth quarter is going to be really where the needle starts to move. The Fed has priced in a potential 50 basis point rate increase. I don't think that is going to happen. We're at a place where we're beginning to see softening in the economy that's going to result in a longer Fed pause, potentially higher than longer, but it's going to be good for mortgage rates in the long term.
What's the softening you're seeing? You're seeing credit card debt all-time high, used car prices clearly coming down.
Auto debt super high.
Yeah.
We're starting to see your day lates, your 30, 60, 90s beginning to run. We've got student loan debt that's coming back on the table that will really impact a lot of people. The economic development from that is in the time where those student loans were deferred, that additional income went into auto loans, credit card debt, and personal choices like
Spending.
Personal spending.
Yeah.
So as the student loan repayments become active again, you've got debt that's grown and it's at a higher interest rate than before all of this started. People are going to be in a bad place, unfortunately.
I think that's a very accurate depiction of what's coming down the pipe. Keith Smith, the show is yours.
Yeah, so while Scott was talking, I just took a
I
look.
would like to do a take that's a little more sunshiny, but we'll get to that later in the show.
Absolutely. We got 3 of them to do. We have 3 of them to do. Keith Smith, John
I need to
Blair,
work
welcome
on my
to the
tan.
show.
Throw some
Okay,
sunshine.
I'll
this
throw
way,
some
buddy.
some
Throw
sunshine.
some sunshine.
Here's the thing. What he's saying is truthful, though.
Yeah, totally.
What he's saying is very accurate.
Totally. But and about the information I'm about ready to share isn't any more rosy either. But yeah, where you were talking about Powell, I was thinking maybe the people really want to listen to Jerry, Scott, and Keith. Don't listen to that guy anymore. Listen to us. That being said, I just took a quick look at this week ending today, 6/28 going back. Actives coming on is 51 in the car footprint. And because somebody who sits across from me taught me how to take pictures and stamp all of them. June 27, 2022, a year ago, 102. So we're less than 50% where we were as far as actives go. So, the market is definitely, as far as activity goes,
What we say?
substantially.
Got to get worse before it gets better. We're getting worse. We see rates improving. Inventory to follow. We're in it, but I think we're turning the page.
What are we at? 7-1 for decent credit?
No, you're in the sixes still.
Yeah?
Yeah.
6-9? Obviously, it all depends on the person.
Let's say 6.625.
There you go.
How's your applications looking?
Good.
That's a number I'd like to track a little bit more.
Ebbs and flows. I feel like a couple weeks ago we kind of went through a belly and then had a big flurry here in the last 7 days.
What about your contract? What about your contact to contract?
That time is continuing to grow. I've
That's
certainly
talk about how important that is.
So contact to contract is the time when somebody comes in, completes a mortgage loan application, we send a pre-approval, and then the time it takes them to get under contract on a property. Now, for some people, that time's very short. They may be making a very strong offer. They could be putting enough money down to where we have an appraisal waiver, and they get an offer accepted that very weekend. But for somebody who's shopping at a lower price point, let's say less than $350,000, there's a scarcer amount of inventory available to that person, and they're competing with more people in getting those contracts accepted. So that's where we see this timeline grow, especially if they have specific needs like school districts or counties or time from work as far as distance of travel. Those types of things can make it very competitive in being in the place that you want to be at lower price points.
Are you seeing contract prices kind of going up, right? I know it's hard for you to take a look at that, because you're not looking at unit to unit, but is your average loan going
Average
up?
loan amount is increased. Yes.
Increasing. So therefore, if your average loan is increasing, therefore sales prices
Yes.
are increasing.
Is average loan amount increasing because sales price is increasing, or because down payment is decreasing, or is it both?
Great question.
Is down payment decreasing because cost of living is becoming more expensive, so
No,
there's less
I think-
income?
No, I think your typical buyer, depending on the situation, my advice to everyone is if you're not putting down 20% to go conventional and remove mortgage insurance,
PMI?
or potentially putting 10% down FHA, because then you're in a role that the mortgage insurance is only removable for FHA with a down payment of 10% or greater after 10 years. Now, with that said, if you're trapping additional money in a mortgage, it doesn't really, there's no true benefit, especially right now when you are most likely going to refinance this loan inside of 12 months. Why would you go and trap money in that you could be using for other debts, lifestyle choices, whatever you've got going on, as opposed to trapping it into a mortgage that you have to pay to get that money back out if you need it?
That's a good take. Why don't we strike the first sizzle reel because it was specific to Jay Powell and very timestamp oriented. That right there is the second one. The first one was Keith's question to Scott on applications. And now we've got two sizzle reels that are a bit more rosy.
All right, rosy. I like it. I like it.
A bit more rosy. That's called branding.
Is that really?
That's called branding right there.
There you go.
Keith Smith, jump in here, my friend.
We just got branded,
Okay,
brother.
okay.
So I wanted to add a little bit to that, which may be another sizzle reel. I'm not that I'm in control of that. Give a quick 101 class on PMI, right? You know, how much does it cost? An average buyer, what does it do, and how do I make it go away? Because I get these questions all the time. Oh my God, if I'm not putting 20% down, I'm paying PMI. But what really is the impact of PMI on the average buyer as far as costs go, right? And what is the purpose of it? And then how do I make it go away?
On the
'Cause
fly,
you can do it on
I
your
can
own.
get into the factor that you're going to pay, but most people aren't going to understand that for the purpose of a sizzle reel or talking point on the show. Why don't we jump in? I'll give some broad strokes. So let's say on
Easy numbers.
a $500,000 loan with 720 credit or better, 5% down, you'll be paying mortgage insurance of around $200 a month.
Got it. So I just want to put this in perspective. On a $500,000 loan, you're paying $200 in PMI, but you're keeping
Per month.
Yes,
I get
approximately.
plus or minus, right?
Yeah.
This is
Broad
a talk
strokes.
show. We're not going to hold you anything to it. But the point I'm trying to make is but then you get to keep all your cash.
Correct.
Right, and that's the point you're trying to make. You get to keep, if you have it.
Now,
you get,
all right, let's say, all right, for this purpose of this exercise, let's say that you've got the cash, and you know that you're going to refinance this loan inside of a year. Like, this is a thing that's going to happen. You keep the cash on the sidelines, you refinance, you put the money in then, because that's going to be the most effective way to get you to the lower payment in the future.
So let's play for devil's advocate for the sake of a talk show, to steal Jerry's line on it. I'm really good at plagiarism. I think that's a really good thing.
I think the human race is good at plagiarism.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's what makes us tick. You're not that
There is
original.
No one remembers Tom from MySpace, but they remember Mark from Facebook.
There you go.
That's called plagiarism.
That's
First to market gets slaughtered. Second to market stacks the paper.
There you go. Well, nothing ever original really has been thought of anyway. It's always been reprocessed it somehow.
Just look at movies.
There you go. That's true, right?
Yeah.
Smith just kicked in. I was having a conversation in an elevator at the wedding I was at about the Flintstones. Go figure.
Love the Flintstones.
But do you know what the Flintstones is a reboot of? Another classic TV show.
Was it the
Come on,
Jetsons?
No.
No, what-
Judah knows what it is. Black and white, done in the 50s.
Oh, yeah, I remember those times. Absolutely.
The Honeymooners
Oh, the Honeymooners. Okay.
with Jackie Gleason. Jackie
Fantastic.
Gleason
To the
was-
moon.
To the moon, Alice. Anyway, I don't know how that got in here, but let's assume
You're talking PMI in the 200. You were about to drop some knowledge.
I was about ready to do that. So let's assume the interest rates don't come down. I put all my cash to the side.
Okay.
Right. Interest rates they stay the same. Let's assume that your prediction quite doesn't happen. It's in a year. I don't want to do this. How do I make that PMI go away? Can I use my cash to make that PMI go away? Can I pay down my loan?
You can. There's a couple different options. So let's say that you've got $200,000, and instead of instead of putting it in the mortgage, you put it into a bond that's yielding you 5% on a 1 year. So 1 year from now, you pull 5% of that $200,000 out. You pull the whole $200,000 out plus the 5% that you made on it, and then you dump that money back into the mortgage. You potentially could recast the mortgage with your current servicer, then pay for an appraisal by that servicer to come out, and then have the current value and the current loan amount show
Reassessed.
that you could remove the mortgage insurance.
So I didn't want to get into too much. I just wanted to let folks know that there's you can actually go back
So
and
without
revisit.
refinancing the loan, you could still get out of the MI and move everything and make your money work
There's a
for
path
you.
there.
There's a path there. However, I highly would you're most likely going to benefit greater from refinancing than just recasting, because if you just recast, you're going to be at the same rate that you are today.
I'm painting a scenario, the rates go
Yes.
up. But
What percentage of your clients that finance loans with you and Ross are putting 20% down?
Percentage of my clients, I do a lot of Govy, so FHA, VA, USDA when it's viable. I would say I probably do 20% conventional and 10% conventional where they are putting 20% down.
So you're talking a third of your book of business?
I'd say a tenth of my book of business is putting 20% down.
Okay, that's what percentage are your clients doing?
very rarely, it's
20%.
Very rarely you will see a 20% down.
Wow.
Very rarely, you'll see a 20%.
I mean, there's some
down.
lenders who probably do a lot of that, they do all conventional loans. It's very cut and dry. There's no
Yeah.
out of the box thinking.
Yeah.
There's not more 20% down payments with folks selling homes with this massive amount of equity?
No, I'm not seeing it. It's not. It's not, and we're seeing homes from $200,000, $300,000 to $800,000 to $1 million, and they're generally following Scott's path, right? They're even at 6%, 7%. They're using other people's money. They're keeping their cash, assuming they have it, to go ahead in whatever portfolios that are making a little bit of money for them, and they are, for the most part, I will tell you, of the 24, 25 closings we've had this year so far, personally, man, I could probably count on one hand it was 20%.
Wow.
But they're all following this path of okay, let's see what the refi. It's the reason I wanted to ask Scott the question is, if the interest rate doesn't go down, what does that look like, and how do I make my PMI go away? So thank you for answering that.
You're welcome.
Questions coming in. Jason Howard on Rio Road, King of Rio. Student loan payments, Scott mentioned, resume in October. Lots of retail goes in the black due to the holiday spending in Q4. He's right. Do you boys think the resumption of these student loan payments will have a significant impact on holiday spending come Christmas time? I say absolutely.
I think yes, and you're also going to see that credit card debt continue to skyrocket.
Yeah.
That's
We're at an all-time high in American history right now with that credit card debt.
That scares me more than anything.
Hey, we got a government that says just let it ride, baby.
They do say let it ride. I'm quite nervous about the credit card debt as well, and he's highlighted the auto loan debt is mounting, and we're starting to see, as he's also said, it's all over the national news, folks behind on payments
Yeah.
on these vehicles. And another thing, another interesting wrinkle, you follow the national news, the car values are dropping fast. So a lot of these loans,
So they went up so fast, but the
a lot of these loans were done on values that no longer are
Exist.
there on these vehicles. You talked about that maybe 8 or 10 months ago, and that legitimately is happening right now. So folks owe more money on vehicles than the vehicle is actually worth.
and they're paying taxes, personal property
Well,
taxes on vehicles that are more than what they are actually worth.
Exactly.
At this point.
So
Yeah.
that's not uncommon. So you'll find a huge percentage. I'm going to go out on a limb here because this is a Scott guesstimation. This is not based on any data, but I will go out and say that 40% of people who are in an auto loan are upside down for the first 24 months.
I don't know about that. because you're saying the
be
car
shocked.
because you're saying a brand new vehicle, as soon as you drive it off the lot, depreciates 40%, and they took the loan on the full sticker value.
Yeah.
That
Because
okay, I'll give you that.
they did 100% finance.
They did 100% finance.
Once that car
Yeah, actually,
leaves the lot,
I think you're
you
right.
now own a used car.
I think you're right
And
now.
outside of these crazy COVID,
Well, I didn't think about it from the way of like 100% finance, because I just didn't,
Yeah,
You're-
they're borrowing all the money, and outside of this weird planet,
You're
that
100% right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
That's frightening.
not to equate housing.
There's a reason they sell you gap insurance in the box at the car dealership. It's because if you wreck that car and it's worth less than what you owe on it, you're responsible for the difference, so that everybody isn't absolutely effed in that situation. They're selling you that to your benefit. It's not something they're trying to get over on you with. There is actually a benefit to that, because not all insurance is going to cover up to the full value of the car.
You're 100% right. I was just looking at it from the lens of putting a down, a sizable upfront payment.
Most people don't do that.
Right. You're 100% right.
They don't have the money.
Yeah.
Well, and they traded in one car as long as I
And
had.
so they go and they were up. You get people that were upside down when they trade the car, so they're packing bad debt from vehicle A into vehicle B and financing it for 8 years. Like, bro, it's bonkers.
Been there, done that. Got the T-shirt and the stars and everything.
Well, you made the analogy to housing, and here's the analogy I want to make with housing. Someone that purchased a crib, say in the last 24 months, 18 months, 12 months, can we make in a comparison or a direct analogy to the brand new car driven off the lot?
So our chemistry is working, because that's literally where I was going to go, because Yona and I have 2 vehicles just about paid off, but 0% financing. They're 4 or 5 years old. I'm not going to buy another car. Now, we don't put a lot of miles on the car. We take care of them. They're less than 50,000 miles on them. They're 4 or 5 years old, really great condition. But I'm not going to roll in and get another car at 7, whatever percentage.
That's synonymous with what Scott's called dead inventory. Folks
housing.
that got the 2.75% interest rate, why would we ever list?
So that's why you're at 51 versus 102.
There you
Because
go.
this time last year it was 3%. People were putting houses on the market, and you're 100% right. That is that there are a couple of things that are pressuring the inventory market. That's one. The second one is people. I just read a report this morning on NAR. Now I haven't had a chance to dig in and fact check it, but they're talking about people staying in homes for 13 years now. So we went from 5 to 7 to 8 to 13 years in the last few years. So folks are staying in their home longer. They're not selling unless they absolutely have to. The buyers are out there. There's a huge pool, but the inventory is shrinking. You asked me how long this inventory crunch is going to stay. I put another. We talked about it last Wednesday, and I'm going to. I think we got a total 10-year window, and I think we're about 5 years into it.
We've been all over this topic here. I'll tell you, and the man is watching right now. John Blair, you legitimately put this on my radar, I think like 20 months ago. And I want to give that man some props on that. I think we should also highlight a new partner of Real Talk with Keith Smith.
Please, thank
You'll
you.
see the branding and logo on screen. Jeremy Rowe of Goosehead Insurance, a new partner of Real Talk with Keith Smith. We could see Jeremy Rowe in coming
You're going to
weeks
see him
on
in
the set.
coming shows, because that whole conversation about insurances and gap insurances and all that stuff, that's the expert to answer that question and how that actually works. But yeah, welcome to Jeremy. Take a look at Real Talk with Keith Smith. Pull down the partner tabs. Support the folks, because
Is it on the partners tab?
soon to be on the partner
Soon to be on the partners tab. All right, it will be on the partners tab by the time the show is over.
But the point is, those support those folks. Those folks let us do what we do
Well,
every day.
and you've personally vet them.
I personally vet them. We do
Yeah.
business with every single one of them.
Yeah, you vet them. These are the people you can trust. Jamie Turner, mayor of Gordonsville, repping the pep and Culpeper. Did you see any of the data points I posted yesterday on Airbnb?
I did.
not.
You did?
I did, yeah. It was Phoenix, which was the 2 cities that got hit really hard.
I'll call
It
the
was Phoenix and maybe Vegas, if I remember correctly.
Airbnb revenue in 10 cities is collapsing, Scott.
Yeah.
I'll give you these data points. I don't know this town. Is it Sayreville, Tennessee? Sayreville? Revenue in this particular municipality in Tennessee is down basically 50%. Phoenix down basically 50%.
Phoenix.
Austin, Texas down 46%. Myrtle Beach 45%. San Antonio 44%. Asheville 42%. Salisbury, Maryland 40%. Nashville 40%. Denver 40%. Breckenridge 38%, New Orleans 37%, Lakeland, Florida 36%, Seattle 36%, Panama City 35%, Orlando, Florida 35%, and the list can continue. This is year-over-year revenue
It's
drops.
Very interesting you should say that. So I'm going out to Seattle. I'm doing a race from Seattle to Portland, July 15th and 16th. I can't get an Airbnb in Seattle. So it's really interesting. Revenue is dropping, but the availability. And the place that I used to stay out there, I actually connected with the homeowner and I called her directly. She sold her house. So she stopped doing Airbnb and she sold the property because, the inventory was light and so forth and so on. But just an interesting side fact that even though the inventory is going down, I can't find an Airbnb to stay in because the little baby's
Here's
crying.
the concern. I'll outline it. You guys are the experts. People took cheap money during the pandemic at 2%, 3%, 4% rates. They bought Airbnb properties because, hey, it's cool to be a business owner. It's easy to be a business owner. Running a small business is sexy. I saw it on Shark Tank, yada, yada, yada. Okay? Then they have success with these Airbnbs. Here's what's happening. The values of those houses have diminished. The loans these people got in a true, more legitimate interest rate environment, they probably would never have gotten those loans. And now the speculation is, at least in these 10 cities, and they have a list of 50 where it's a third down year over year in America, that this could create a turnover of housing. Maybe it's the inventory we need, okay?
I don't think the volume is that
I don't think the
large.
volume's there,
Yeah.
but people are
help.
basically saying they got Airbnb revenue that's not what it used to be, at homes that aren't valued at what they used to be anymore.
Well, the government.
disagree with the value
Fannie Freddie called the
tremendous.
So this started a while
Yeah,
ago
but Phoenix
when they
I would agree
placed
with. Boston,
they
not.
placed LLPA. So second homes used to price like a first. So your interest rate for buying a second home was just like buying a primary. There was no hit there. Now it's your 3/4 of a point or greater in a second home purchase than primary, because the thought was, where is all of this second home purchasing coming from? Because a lot of it wasn't true second homes. It was for this. And I talked about this on the show a year ago. And I think now we're starting to see, again, when I talk about the M2 money supply and the softening of inflation, the deacceleration of, or what's the, there's a phrase, the
viewers and listeners can help you out. We can help you out. We'll walk it through.
It's not magnificent. It's the what Jesus' birth was also called the. Anyways,
Jesus' birth.
The immaculate de-inflation or
Immaculate
immaculate disinflation is what
Okay.
my brain can't find.
What is that?
That is, inflation came on so fast, and inflation is going to disappear so fast. There's an entire group of financiers and economists who believe that this is the case.
Huh.
And
It's funny you should say that. I was actually reading this on Market Watch yesterday, the exact same thing about, did we really have inflation?
well, this goes into Scott's anything's transitory if the timeline's long enough.
I knew that was coming. I knew that was coming. I know Scott pretty well.
I feel like we are in that pocket at the moment to get there. There's some things that will make it a little stickier, some wage growth and housing increase, that those are realities that we're just not going to be able to undo. But a lot of this money that was pushed into the system has been spent at the consumer level and has been raked in by the government and entities that are corporations that are not going to release. Like, bro, Apple's got like $200 billion in cash. No one conceivably understands how much money that is.
I mean, we're talking Apple's
I
market
don't
cap.
count it.
I'm using them as just an example. They're not the only ones. Insurance companies, health insurance companies, or we're talking about are sitting on tens to hundreds of billions of dollars of cash that has exponentially grown over the last 3 years. And what happened when this money was pushed into the system, it was raked by entities who aren't going to push it back in, and this money for people to go out and spend on Airbnbs and do these types of things are coming off of the table.
Apple and Amazon, legitimately, their market cap, they're wealthier than 90% of the countries in the world. Think about that. Apple and Amazon have more cash to deploy and cash on hand than 90% of the countries in the world.
And they grow that with bond issuance, and they've actually gone in and said, we're not going to release new bonds now because now is not the rate environment that we need to do that.
Keith Smith, I see the wheels turning.
Yes.
And your daughter's got a comment.
Oh, love to hear that.
Immaculate disinflation.
I like
Come on,
that.
brain.
I like that. Carly Wagner, hello. Holly Foster, hello.
So all these little pieces of the puzzle are going to start helping the inventory a little bit, right? You know, disinflation, Airbnbs becoming less profitable. I'm not so sure that's going to help. Is that the case in our footprint?
I don't think it's going to help in Central Virginia.
It's not going to help in the car footprint.
Yeah.
You know, we are a real estate show. We are talking about what impacts us locally and regionally. But guys, we're 56% off from the same time last year of new inventory coming on the market. So anything like that is going to help. There's also, God forbid I even say it, there's, you know, you're going to start seeing a little bit of foreclosures start creeping back into the market. I mean, these are very low single digit numbers. They're not huge amount, but it's going to be a little bit into it on it. But what really needs to help, and I can't believe I'm going to, I just don't know what the impact's going to be. But if interest rates drop again a little bit, I think you're going to see that inventory pick up, a little bit.
This from
Yvonne?
Yep, Yvonne. She's given Scott props. She has undoubtedly said Scott Morris is the person to use to finance a home purchase. Yvonne and Houston utilize Scott's services when buying their home in Richmond. She says, in my opinion, Airbnb is the same price as a hotel here. They also have cleaning fees and required cleaning for checkout, so less cleaning and the same price for a hotel. I can add some perspective to this. Airbnbs have gotten so exorbitant with the fees associated with renting one that it now almost makes sense just to go to a 4 or 5 star hotel, because the 4 or 5 star hotel offers more amenities and a more luxurious experience. Now, if you're traveling with some in-laws, your dog, and a baby, the value proposition of the Airbnb is there because you have a little bit more room for your family to enjoy. But if it's just you and your honey and you're going somewhere,
Or me and a bike.
or you and a bike, why wouldn't we go to a 4 and 5 star hotel instead of an Airbnb?
So here's
it's more luxurious.
So here's the problem, Yvonne, and here's the problem where Yvonne lives. So the city of Seattle is kind of,
It's an anomaly.
No, it's an anomaly, but in a way, it's a lot like Charlottesville, much larger. But most of the city is single-family detached homes by some huge percentage amount. There's no hotel near where Yvonne and Houston live right now. I have to go downtown, which is a pain in the hiney, to go down there because you got to go down I-5, which is a pain in the hiney, to go down there and do this. So I can't get a hotel that's within walking distance of Yvonne's house, but I can get an Airbnb, assuming they were available. But anyway, we're between 30 to 50% down in volume. That 30 to 50%, I think, is going to stay flat for quite a while. Before the inventory starts creeping back up. I'm just looking at days on market.
This is an interesting comment from Jennifer, who's watching in Belmont. Hasn't the inventory season gotten behind us already? She's obviously highlighting the spring season. You're the expert. You've said many times on the show, maybe that's not so much the case anymore.
I think this year's kind of feeling a little like normal, but not. Maybe yes, maybe no, yes, right? But the reality of it is I can think pretty much since COVID on out, this whole seasonal thing is out the window.
Woody Fincham, that is the exact
Hey, Woody.
graph that I highlighted on the I Love Seville network last evening, the one that you sent to me about the Airbnb collapse being real. He's highlighting 10 markets, actually 15 markets where the collapse is real. Friend of the program, actually is my brother, owns a significant property in the French Quarter that's associated, that's
Yeah.
tied to Airbnb.
Yeah? How's he doing?
Right now it's full, but I know for a fact he's watching this closely. He also has a property in, where's the spot in California? Is it Judith, Palm Springs, the desert?
Yeah, yeah, my sisters live in Palm Springs area.
Yeah, he's got a 4-bedroom, 3-bath in Palm Springs as well that he's Airbnb-ing. So he's watching this extremely closely.
I mean, I think that's just that. All right, so there are some places in some areas that drive enough tourist destination that will always continue to rent but bring a smaller premium. And there are places where people stuck these things here, there, and everywhere that just won't drive rents. And that's okay. I mean, it's not for everybody, but that's the whole purpose of the people who went out and bought second homes and did this, and because they saw how lucrative it was during this period of fake money, of the government, pushing all this. Something that you've seen. What's the dude who's running for president that was pushing UBI, Universal Basic Income?
Ross Perot?
No, Ross Perot's not pushing UBI.
I thought you were going to make a reference to RFK and the squats and push-ups and the bench press he was doing.
Gosh, if that dude if he had a little smoother delivery, I know he's been through a lot in his life, he would.
You're talking Andrew Yang.
Andrew Yang, thank you. The Andrew Yang, the UBI argument after this little science experiment that or financial experiment that we went through during COVID, that argument's completely gone away. It's not talked about. And it's not talked about because it failed. It is a failed model. It created the inflation that we exist in right now. And it is what supported so many of these Airbnbs and this situation that we got ourselves in. And some of them are going to go away. Some businesses are going to fail. Some banks are going to be taken over. We've got something like 2,000 banks in the United States. There is going to be a consolidation in the next 48 months. In the next 4 years, you will see a number of small regional banks taken over or merged with others.
I agree with that.
And
You think that's tied to the bad debt on commercial?
I think that it's tied to a lot of things, but yeah, that's a big part of it.
Yeah, we've been talking about this for a while. Watch the commercial market, that and the multifamily market. On a national level, locally, I think commercial will be a little soft on the retail side.
Well, I mean, look at it this way. You got, and Scott, you can jump in
Way
on this.
too much multifamily being built right now.
You can jump in on this. You got government bonds at what? Some at 5.5? 5.5?
What's the 2-year right now? And you could.
So while Scott's doing that,
You got some savings accounts at what? 4.75?
yeah, sure.
Some savings accounts at 4.75?
Yeah.
So if you got a building and your cap rate's in the 4 to 6%,
Which is low.
let's say it's in the 4 to 6%. Why would someone be intrigued about that versus guaranteed 5.5 in a government bond?
Yeah, sure.
So
Until that goes away.
There's some
and
6
then-
months that have been out there at that 5.5 range.
At 5.5?
2 years trading right now at 4.7.
4.7, and then what? We have some savings accounts at 4.75, don't we?
Yeah, I think our money market's around 5, something like that.
I mean, that's pretty damn good.
Yeah.
For just
Yeah.
parking your money in an
But
account and doing jack.
it's interesting that approach that you took because what a cap rate is a capitalization rate, right? It's what your percentage income is going to get on a commercial property. Not to get too much in the weeds in it, but it's an interesting analogy. Why the hell would you want to do that when I can just take X
And do
number
nothing.
and do nothing until it changes.
Until it changes.
Right.
But then you know what I see, and this is
Now's the opportunity to buy.
that's what I see.
Yeah, now's the and to be
Because
honest,
people are doing the easy route, where the entrepreneur can come in and do the hard route, and then that's going to change.
so not to get down a rabbit hole here, but that's why I have a couple of 1031 exchange clients that are looking to buy. Nobody wants to rent anymore. Everybody wants to buy.
Yeah.
Because it is exactly, even though it's kind of expensive, but if they're doing 1031 exchange, it's not expensive because it's cash, 1-for-1 cash, over with that expecting to happen.
Carly, Carly, I really love
I
when you watch
just
the
literally
program.
got a text from a client about Airbnb collapsing an article.
Carly Wagner says Scott Morse for president.
Right.
She says Scott taking a nonsense Andrew Yang idea and then taking a critical look at economic issues rather than denying and hiding. So we should offer
Very
a second
interesting.
side
I've
to
got
this.
a client watching the show who has a bunch of Airbnbs. I'll leave the name out. That just texted me the same emailed me the same article. He has a bunch of Airbnb. His is doing well. He's got an 80% occupancy rate. He's got 4 of them. I believe it's 4 units on a property in Albemarle
I mean,
County.
explain to me how universal basic
Don't you
income.
love this show?
Universal basic income is not socialism. Universal basic income is this: you have the populace, and the populace is going to get from the government income for their lives. How is that not socialism?
Well, I'll take it one step further than that because I lived it for 6 years. That's kind of the basis of the socialist Soviet system, right?
It basically encourages people not to work.
Yeah. We're going to stay away from that.
Didn't we have that during COVID with the handouts? And didn't we see the collateral damage of that? No one wants to talk about that because if you do, you're just a mean capitalist.
Well, that's specifically what I'm talking about right now.
Didn't the
and-
wall also come down and all that kind of great stuff? Yeah.
And that's specifically
You got to
what I'm
live
talking
that.
about.
You got to live that stuff to really understand.
No, I understand that, and I understand that those COVID payments. What was it? The PPP stuff? Is that what it?
Sure.
You know, I understand that saved millions of people. I'm not trying to like take the empathy out of
No.
it.
And somebody
But we got
who's-
in this position because of that. in
Somebody
part.
who's watching the show can
All
get
right.
this. I was listening.
I'm
to
gonna blow the whistle on that. So all of that, you can't
3
have the
check.
government tell everybody they can't go to work and then not do anything about it. That was overall a bad call. All the, I'm not going to get into the people, the friends that I alienated and told, hey, bro, you're just dumb, over the fact that the hot takes on COVID and the whole thing. People should have been going to work. You should have been going to the gym. You should have been allowed to be outside. But if the government's going to tell you can't go to work, then they have to step in and make amends. And that amends was that money. And unfortunately, that money put us in the place that we're at today. So the whole argument of UBI behind that, we've shown, is not a successful plan for a society in general. So yes, it is socialism on its face, and yes, it doesn't work. Repeatedly, we've shown that.
So somebody
Amen,
has
brother.
to.
Can I give him some props?
Somebody has to research.
Judah,
it.
we worked every day during COVID, did we not?
I know we did. We
I was
had
going.
masks.
I was going to the gym every day during COVID.
We had masks. We had earphones.
We
on.
gained market share during COVID.
We had masks.
Our competitors were collecting PPP. I'll just leave it at that.
So I heard
Steve
something.
really doesn't want to talk about this. Scott's eager to talk about it.
No. I mean, I traveled during COVID to foreign countries, so it's a matter of your comfort level and what you were doing. But what I've been trying to get out is I heard on an NPR, and somebody who's smarter than me can go ahead and look it up, there was some huge percentage of all this money that was given out that nobody knows where it went.
Oh, I saw it today. It was over $200 billion in
Some
COVID fraud. $200 billion
That's
dollars in COVID fraud.
I couldn't remember the exact number.
So part
so
of
not
that-
only
The,
did that
the
all
Los Angeles Lakers got COVID money. The Los Angeles Lakers.
So not only did all the stuff that you guys are talking about happening, the money got misused on top of it.
Yeah.
On top of all of that now, on the positive side, I can say this because we gave out almost $4 million, we meaning the Regional Housing Partnership, to people that were to help them pay their mortgages and their rent. So that was good. That helped a bunch of great folks. but what was it, $2 billion? Nobody really kind of know if they went places that they shouldn't have went to.
200 billion
200 was 200 billion.
in COVID fraud.
200 billion.
200 billion. And then we're
Unemployment
surprised why we
fraud.
have inflation.
Unemployment fraud that existed at its peak during the COVID years is the reason that report is not taken as seriously as it is today, which is adversely affecting the bond market and not giving people a realistic look at what the economy is actually doing right now.
There it is. There it is.
So any rosy stuff on the
I mean,
feed today?
we're being honest, and it's
Yeah, I don't-
resonating with the viewers. Carly highlights, and those went to work, they got no money. It just increased the cost for everything, lower wage increases because poor economic outlooks. 100% right. 100% right. What a mess. Scott, what's on the brain?
We're out here helping people buy homes every single day. And it's competitive in different places, and everybody's situation is unique. Each real estate transaction is its own little fingerprint. And there's different problems in each situation, and how we go about solving them takes the right people and the right professionals. And so if you're somebody in the business who's out there watching this, like, just know that communication is key. Who are your people? Where are your people at? Like, where's your team? And that should be in everything. Right now there's dealerships. There's when I talk about businesses that are banks that are going to be merging, and you're seeing it right here in Charlottesville. Flow is taking over the dealership game here in Charlottesville.
Oh, big time.
Dude, Pantops is not Pantops anymore, it's Flowtops.
Well,
Have you seen it?
Well, Umansky purchased right there.
Yeah.
So 29, Jim Price is wrapping up.
Yeah.
They're going to be Flow now.
Flow built an epicenter across the street on Pantops from their other epicenter, literally like across the street from them. And Flow, props to Flow, doing what the Buffett saying was, they got opportunistic and greedy when folks were fearful and strapped. And they expanded market share.
Hey, not to mention these dealers, they got paid too, because
they got paid.
Their paper hasn't looked this good in 10 years.
So they got top dollar on
yeah,
the sale,
yeah.
for sure. Because when they sold it was when cars were trading at 30, 40, 50% above book value. And those numbers, he's right, may have justified a sales price that today probably is not justified.
Anybody who's a business owner who had the opportunity to sell, there's a ton of, if you look at these conventions where they put, let's say you're a dentist who owns a bunch of practices, and you've got a group that's out there because there's a whole model in there.
I got a buddy on the downtown mall that specializes in that right there.
There's a whole bunch of takeover going on in that space, and medical in general, to where they come in and they say, hey, doctor, you don't want to run this staff.
This is what my buddy does.
What a headache.
Yeah.
We'll come in, we'll buy that from you. You just show up and work every day.
They buy the building, they buy the practice, they golden handcuff the dentist who was previously the owner with a little 10 points ownership points on the package. They
Plus.
do guarantee a nice salary.
Yeah.
They take away all the headache of running the business. They say you just show up, maintain morale, you get a payday, and they're doing it everywhere. This dude that is on the mall, he and his partner are doing it all over the country.
It's really interesting you should bring this up, because I had a conversation with my son-in-law.
He's doing it with veterinary practices as well. This is another thing that a lot of people don't realize. You know who one of the largest owners of veterinary practices in America is? The Hershey family.
Oh, really?
Yeah. They're using the ducats to buy vet practices. And the buildings associated with them.
So it's interesting, because I was having a conversation with my daughter and my son-in-law, who's moving over from Richmond. He's an anesthesiologist. He's a freaking rock star of a doctor. I was like, well, did they teach you how to run a business? Did they give you any business background on it? Because these guys are...
They're book smart.
And the answer is no.
Of course not.
On that stuff. But hey, I want to go back to Scott.
You know who one of the most important, and this is a perfect opportunity for you to highlight a partner, You find me an attorney that is a businessman, I'll be loyal to that attorney for life.
Oh, I've got one called Bill Tucker.
There it is. Bill Tucker.
Yeah.
You find me an attorney that understands the concept of business and closing a deal as opposed to imploding a deal. Same with like a home inspector.
You want to look at my phone? You told me I was not allowed to text you at 5:30 in the morning.
I mean, I'm up. I think I might be up earlier now.
Well, that goes back
That's
to my
because you're
philosophy.
burning 2,500 calories, which we need to talk about.
I want to be surrounded by
but
people.
I was on the
who
phone
work
with him
towards
at
a yes.
6 o'clock this morning
Yeah, no doubt.
on a deal. Sorry.
There's so many people who want to, who
I was on a bike at the time.
being right is more important than a
Yeah,
successful
yeah,
transaction,
yeah.
and it's.
I can't talk high enough about Bill and any of the partners on there, right? It's all about getting the deal done, all about taking care of the client, all about moving forward. But I want to get back to this thing about people are buying houses. So while you guys were chatting, I took a quick look at this 7 days versus the same 7 days a week ago. Would you believe that we've got 94 units that sold? That means this last 7 days, 94 homes actually closed. That means 94 people went under contract, went through the process, and closed this week. A year ago, it was 100. So we still have people buying and closing homes at that same clip, even with a 50% reduction in inventory. So all that is to Scott's point, people are out there buying, people are out there selling. You need to get in the game, just like the security guy I was talking to at Houston's house that he didn't want to get in the game. And now I've kind of convinced him to get into the game and just get a home, do your path, get a condo, get a townhome, get something. Get in the game and start building your equity. That number surprised me. I expected to see a little bit of a bigger delta, but almost the same amount of units closed the last 7 days a year ago as it did just the last 7 days.
I love it. Boys and girls, questions, put them in the feed. We relay them live on air. This question's come in the mix. Can Scott walk us through the refinance process when credit card debt is at a high for a household, and how he can go about doing that if the credit card debt has impacted credit score? That's a good question.
Do these people already own a home?
Do you already own a home? How about you do it from both sides?
If you don't own a home,
It's going to be pretty difficult.
it's going to be painful.
Yeah.
If you already own a home, you may have a couple different options. One, we could look at something along the lines of, now, if we're behind on payments, the road gets harder. So taking action before that is the case is what I cannot stress enough. And I talk about it all the time. We too often find ourselves in a situation where we've stuck our head in the sand and the problem has grown to be where it's out of control. And that's when it becomes harder to help than taking some proactive action once you know things have gotten further along than where you would like them to be, but you can still manage it. And that could mean that everything's maxed out and you know you got a tough spot, you're in a tough spot. How do you get out of it? There could still be an out as long as the payments are being made on time. But once the payments on the credit cards, the mortgage, anything, once those start getting behind, then you become a greater risk to the investor who's going to be financing that loan, and it's harder to get you the money. So acting before the problem has topped, like before you've gone over the cliff, where it just still feels like your syphilis pushing this rock up the mountain, like that's when you need to do the work to move, to try
Unlike
to get out of it.
2008 through 2010, you didn't have a lot of options. Now you have options.
Now you got options.
If
Yeah.
you've got a home, you've got equity, you've got options available to you. Back in 2008, 2010, when all that process, there was no options. There was no equity for you to go ahead and help get out of it. Your home couldn't be put on the market to sell because there was too many.
There's nobody buying.
Nobody was buying it at that particular time. It is so important for us to get this out and talk about this on a regular basis. And if you think that you're kind of going down that road, call Scott. Call
Scott
me.
Morris, Ross Mortgage.
Yeah, call me. Well, don't please.
So my suggestion
Don't
would,
get the 31 days on your mortgage.
my suggestion would be
Please.
this.
Or call Bill Tucker.
if a cash out refinance doesn't fix the problem, but we can qualify you based on a purchase of selling the home, this is how I would structure it. If we can qualify you, knowing that you're going to be taking a higher rate no matter what, let's get that. Let's
It's on the table.
get that out of our heads and just say that is what it is. Here's what the solution would look like.
You've got two choices: paying higher rate or filing bankruptcy.
The rate's going to be
And
high
then
no
that'll be
matter.
impacting
You're going to think if you got 800 credit right now, you think the rate's high anyway.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
let's
yeah.
look at it this way. I would tell you to suggest sell the house, especially if you've been at more than 2 years. We've got no capital gains to deal with.
Yeah.
Sell the house. We'll mark all of the debts paid at closing on the purchase of the next sale. So you sell the house. We qualify you for the next one. We pay all the debts. We get you into the new house. You're in the house for this next year. All of that credit card debt's wiped clean. You've got a year of solid mortgage payments. Your credit score is going to skyrocket. So let's assume that you're a 605. You're now going to be a 700 plus going into next year. We're in a better rate environment. We keep enough cash on the side to where we refinance you then into a much lower rate, much more beneficial payment. You already qualified to do this in the beginning. Your cash flow got better because we erased all the credit card debt and we gave you a path forward.
That's like legit information for people, J-Dubs. We should mark that. I mean, that's like legit information for people to hear. And I bet you a lot of people are there.
And I'm going to play the devil's advocate for the sake of the talk show.
Please.
And be the somewhat of it. The only absolutely perfect path. That path was not available in 2008. Flat out wasn't available.
For you.
For anybody, because you couldn't buy anything and nobody was buying your house. There was no transactions happening at that point in time. Here's the bit of a hiccup. I got to have something to buy. That's the struggle right now. And the struggle is if I
You don't necessarily have to buy it.
well, the thing you outlined was a
The reason
sell buy, correct?
The reason he outlined the sell buy is because he wanted to help people
Did I hear that
improve
right?
their
Yeah,
credit score.
all right,
I
You
get-
could sell rent.
You could sell and rent.
Yeah.
Good luck trying to find a renter.
But if you sell rent, you're going to have a harder time improving the credit score. But
Agreed.
you still will have zero credit card debt, and then you can have other mechanisms to improve your score.
and you're not filing bankruptcy.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Because that's what's going to have to happen.
But to
You're-
your point, what if you don't find something to buy?
well, then you rent,
All right, so let's
or you
do
go
this.
live on my couch or whatever.
Let's do this. Let's say we got
I got 2 extra bedrooms.
you
walk around in your underwear.
You understand the position
Really?
that you're in, how to get out of it,
Not
and what
really.
that looks like. You put the house up for sale. You know that you're going to be making a lateral move. You find a house that, and because of the inventory scarcity, we can guarantee you a 60-day rent back in your current sale. So you sell the house, you got 60 days. You buy a house that has some deferred maintenance. We do a streamlined 203K where you go in and we replace the carpets, the countertops, and the roof. And so for less than $30,000, we do all these things. It happens inside of 2 months. You stay in the house that you're in. You move into the new house, and you're already you made a lateral move, took debt off the table, and you're in a house that meets, for the most part, what you would like to be in from the house that you left.
So here's the simple takeaway: you've got options.
You've got
Take
options.
them. Call a trusted advisor and take them. And I know that. Look, I'm going to talk. I'm going to do a little preaching here. I'm going to talk from a personal experience. I lost $17 million. I thought I could fix it. I couldn't. I didn't cause it. It didn't happen. I didn't make it happen. I didn't take $17 million and go buy that yacht I got parked somewhere down in the Caribbean, right? I didn't.
Is that what you've been doing?
Just a little bit, but little
You
bit.
rebounded well.
A little bit. But my point was the only one mistake I made was I thought I could fix it. And I believed the banks, but that was a whole different story.
Bonnie Davidson, hello. Welcome to the program.
Bonnie.
She's watching in Culpeper here. Guys, questions, put them in the feed. One of the Shenandoah Valley's finest backstops, Michael
Ooh.
Plecker, is stoking the fire,
Oh,
as Michael Plecker does. We love you, Michael Plecker. He says, bring up the Department of Justice lawsuit as it applies to local real estate firms in Central Virginia.
How much time we got?
Plecker mentions Logan Foster and Remax.
yeah. So the DOJ actually is in that. So there's 2 things going on here. There is a lawsuit that's going on working its way through the courts Concurrently, there's a Department of Justice, which is one that has more import and more impact on it. I'm going to see if I can try to dumb
Choosing
this.
your words carefully over
Yeah,
there.
I'm choosing my words carefully. But what I want to try to do is not cause panic and inquiry. But here's the.
I mean, there's some ugly stuff in this here.
There really isn't. There may be ugly stuff being floated around in the Facebook world and the social media world, but here's what it boils down to. What it boils down to is that DOJ, and let's just focus on the DOJ because that's the one that really matters, Department of Justice, is basically saying that the buyer doesn't know or have the right or any input on how much commission they pay the real estate agent in a transaction because the seller's paying it, which is actually false. Because in the state of Virginia, when I have a conversation with you, as soon as you say, I want to talk about real estate, there's a law that says as soon as we have a substantive conversation, and what defines substantive is an open book, because our lovely folks in the freaking state creates this language. But what I'm supposed to do is I'm supposed to talk about what I do, what my role is, and how much I get paid. What we do, yes, Realty Partners, there's a thing called a buyer-broker agreement. As soon as Jerry says, hey, Keith, I want to go look at a house, we sit down and we talk about a buyer-broker agreement. In that buyer-broker agreement, it says, if the seller doesn't pay me X percent, you're paying me X percent. That's required by state law that you're supposed to do that. That doesn't happen very often. So from my perspective, this is a great thing. You know, if you're in this business and you don't know how to explain your worth, you probably ought not to be in the business.
No, there's a lot of people like that.
Yeah. So remember this conversation we had about I'm thinking 30 to 50% of agents are going to leave? This is part of my calculus. Market is down to 15 and 16. All of a sudden, these certain folks have been doing business a certain way are going to have to change the way they do business. And then, the market being what it is. All that's really going to happen at the end of this, it's going to land on his thing. Because what's going to happen is, well, the loan side of it, that's where the rubber's going to meet the road. And I'm trying to really choose my words carefully and navigate. Yeah, I'm actually thinking.
I'm impressed.
What's going to happen?
I mean, you got Remax and Logan Foster.
Yeah.
Okay.
So what's going to happen here? When first of all, it's got to run through the Supreme Court. It's going to take forever before it happens. But when it does happen, I'm going to sit down with Jerry and I'm going to say, I'm representing you, which I do anyway. Here's my buyer-broker agreement, which I do anyway, which tells me all my roles and responsibilities and how I get paid. And if the seller doesn't pay it, you got to pay it. Well, what's going to happen here is if the buyer has to pay it, it's got to get rolled into seller concessions. The regulators are going to have to let that happen because otherwise it's going to be cash out of the buyer's pocket.
And they're never going to qualify
for a loan.
Correct.
They're never going to qualify for a loan because it's going to be an extra 50. If it's a $500,000 house, you're talking an extra 15
So
G's.
this isn't
Forget
really
550. Let's just make the
really isn't on our side,
affordable
it's
housing
on our side.
doesn't exist under that model.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, do you want to offer perspective on this?
No.
You want to
But
stay away from
but
this?
I will.
Yeah.
So there's a couple takeaways here. Yeah, there's a lot of people who do this, who are in this business, who don't do a good job of either understanding or explaining to their clients how any of this works. That's part of the problem. There's a huge number that are protected by signing. You're protecting yourself and having these buyer broker agreements signed when you meet a client. And there's so many people out there who don't do a good job of providing value, educating, understanding, and then having that signed, and then find that the client clicked on the next thing they saw on the internet and they lost the client. And they're like, how did this happen? Well, you didn't do that part of your job when you met them.
So when we coach and
I think he's not finished.
And in doing so, not only are you explaining to them how this works so there's a greater understanding, you're also building a greater level of rapport. It's beneficial to you to do it. It's beneficial to the client to do it. And in doing so, if you take that away to where the client is then responsible for making that upfront payment, they're, instead of bringing potentially 6.5 to 8% total cash to close, and
gotta
now
bring
they're
10.
having to bring 11%,
An extra 3.
potentially,
Or 2 or
potentially,
whatever.
potentially 11%
Yeah.
to close.
That's an extra barrier of entry.
Where there, I've just discussed the stress that those buyers are going to be under, given the current economic world that we're in. We're talking about making it more expensive for them, but at the same time, our woe is me political stance is we need to create more affordable housing. It's a bad take.
So the premise of the
Agents offering commentary.
Let me get this out. So the premise of both things is the buyer doesn't know what they're paying. If you do exactly what Scott outlined, you can Google it. There's a document called the Exclusive Right to Represent Buyer Agreement. It's clear who pays who and how it gets paid. The ultimate premise of the DOJ and the lawsuit is Jerry Miller had no idea how much he was paying for my services. And I got to tell you,
I think most buyers.
let me finish
Yeah,
this,
yeah.
because I'm going to get myself into trouble here. If you're got a real estate license and you're not able to explain your worth
You shouldn't be in the game.
and do this, you shouldn't be in the game.
I think most buyers have
So-
no idea. Most buyers have no idea about this.
And I get that.
In fact, I would say 90% of buyers have zero idea about this. You
So-
guys are looking at this from the insider's perspective.
So I can tell you 100% who works with Yes Realty Partners knows what they're doing, because every one of us makes sure that the buyer understands.
You think most buyers understand this, Scott?
Otherwise, it wouldn't be a lawsuit. So it's kind of an obvious
Well, here's the
question.
lead. A federal judge in
Yeah.
Chicago ruled that home sellers accusing the National Association of Realtors
Yeah.
and a group of real estate brokerages of conspiring to inflate commission rates can move forward as a class action.
Sure. So,
USD
that's the DOJ side.
We're talking about a class action lawsuit
Yeah.
seeking more than $13 billion in damages.
You know how long that's been going on?
Oh, it's been going on for a while. You got Remax and Logan Foster in this.
Yeah. Well, look.
And the state, the states they're talking, right?
Yeah, I want to be super careful. Let's not call out specific people.
I'm just reading from the
No,
article.
I got it.
Yeah.
But on the show, I prefer not to call out specific people.
Okay.
On that end.
It's all
on
over
that
the
end.
news.
I get that, but let's kind of stick to the facts. So the
Sure.
facts are that my industry
Yeah.
has to do a better job of explaining to the buyer what their roles are, what they're doing, and how we get paid. In a way, I love the fact that this is all going on, because that makes you going to have to do it. You should be doing it anyway. How do you do that when you sit down with your
I've got a
client?
2.5-minute spiel. I've timed it several times. That goes into the responsibilities and upfront costs that a buyer should expect.
Yeah.
How their realtor is getting paid to compensate them,
Yeah.
and why they should trust their buyer agent because they're working on the behalf of you. We have a team. This is how it works. This is your upfront costs that you're going to expect. This is how people are being compensated. This is how I'm being compensated. And I have that call with 80% of my clients. There's some that are just like, I've done this before, I got it, let's move on. But for anyone who's coming in as far as a first-time home buyer the more people understand about the process, the more they trust you in the process.
So this document talks about brokers' duties, buyers' duties, compensation, dual and
Got
designated
a lot of agents
agency.
watching you right now.
Of course. Disclosures of dual agency, recording miscellaneous, there's all kinds. It is very clearly done that. And every time I sit down with a client, I actually spend more time going over this than page by page of the contract, because the buyer needs to understand the process. It's also really important in this document, it talks about what the buyer's responsibilities are. The buyer has responsibilities in this arrangement. So as long as you are disclosing all of that, as long as you have your buyer-broker agreement signed with your client before you open up the first house and show it to them, you're good to go. There is no problem here. It's when you don't do that, that's where this is going to become a slippery
Michael
slope.
Plecker's comment.
Yeah.
He says, I have already had my talk track down if this change takes place. It's basically going to remain as it's always been, but the seller will bump the price of a listing by 3%.
That could happen. This is all about the, and this is like a Bill Tucker question. This is all about the back end of it. And we're having a conversation right now that's probably not going to get in place for years and years and years to come, because this is going to end up to the Supreme Court.
Carly Wagner, it's already illegal to not disclose the commission payment. If your buyer isn't aware, you should lose your license.
Say that again?
She says it's already illegal. Where did that comment go? It's already illegal to not disclose the commission payment. If your
That's her-
buyer isn't aware, you should lose your license.
Well,
Multiple folks are asking if Scott's okay right now. Literally. I've seen
I'm sorry, Scott.
eight comments on the feed right now.
You want me to get the angry
I
elephant?
think we're talking about something that one hasn't even been litigated
That's
yet.
exactly right.
And I don't
That's the
I don't
point I'm
care
trying to
for the
make.
news story. We're talking about, look, this is going to work itself out.
Your daughter's asking about this.
Yeah, no.
Then go read the news.
I got the text.
Then
Yeah.
This is not, I don't, in my opinion, good fodder for a talk show, because I think there's too much that is.
Too much nuances.
And too much that's just.
So, Yvonne, this is really simple. Explain what your role is, explain what their role is, and how you get paid and compensated, and have them sign a buyer-broker agreement, and you are golden from here to the end of time. It's not that complicated, folks. And to Scott's point, this is getting a bit blown out of proportion. It's got to flush through the system. But if you do, as Carly stated, it's a state law. If you do what they tell you to do, you're good to go. The problem is if you don't. So, and a little self-regulatory stuff is probably in order.
Okay, we'll leave it at that. 11:30 on the talk show right
Look
here.
at that. We made it right to that with that last topic.
I try to save it for the end for a reason. I figured this would be something that would be tough for you guys to chitter chatter
Hey,
about.
what's that Korea barbecue place that I've been told about?
Judah's been there.
Nice
Or
job.
the
all
name?
you can eat.
Nice pivot.
What's the name?
think there's a
I don't even
couple
need.
of
No, this is the one on Main Street.
Doma.
Doma. All right, I'm going to Doma after this.
Okay, there you go.
Doma, or the sushi place I like that's over next to the one with the firefighter stuff over there by Costco. What's that little? There's a sushi
Oh.
place over there. A plus, bro.
Firefighter stuff. You're talking about Mission Barbecue.
Mission Barbecue.
Mission
yeah.
Barbecue is very good. I think have you been to Doma?
I have not been to Doma. That's why I'm choosing Doma over the sushi place that I can't remember the name of next to Mission Barbecue. So plug for Mission Barbecue, and kind of plug for the sushi place that I can't remember
Doma's
the name
got
of.
some of the best wings in town. As we go to talking chicken wings, some of
Chicken
the best
wings. How
chicken
about them
wings
Mets?
in town.
Hey, by the way, anybody who, if you're out there and you're like, I want a rooster, I got too many. So I'm either going to be having fried chicken soon,
It took to 11:30 to talk about chickens?
or I will be happy to rehome some barnyard mixed roosters.
Yvonne might take you some. She found out that she can do chickens now in Richmond.
She can do chickens. She probably can't do roosters.
Can't do roosters.
I love it.
Thank
we
you.
had the TV station down the street tuning in while we were talking about this, by the way.
Yeah. So look, there's also a responsibility of the buyer too. I don't know. Every buyer I work with, they ask me about commissions. So, it's a dialogue. As long as everything is open and above board, you shouldn't have a problem. And documented.
Chicken wings, sushi, refinancing, getting yourself out of debt, buying homes,
DOJ.
DOJ, Airbnb.
Nobody ever knows what could happen on Real Talk with
Literally
Keith Smith.
anything can happen on Real Talk with Keith Smith. We focus on real estate, life, and the pursuit of happiness through prudent financial decisions on this talk show.
There
That
you go.
really kind of snapshots what we do here on Real Talk with Keith Smith. Judah Wickhauer keeps us on air. Keith Smith is good people. Scott Morris next Wednesday. That's what you were going to ask him?
Next Wednesday, I will not be here. I'm going to a funeral of a good friend of mine in Arlington. So
Jeremy Rowe,
Can you
potentially?
maybe get Jeremy.
I
in?
I will,
Or
I will, I will have the seats filled. I may
Yep.
or may not be here myself. I've got
But,
something that's going to take me out of town.
We will be in Arlington putting a good friend to rest. So
There you go. Gentlemen, thank you kindly for joining us. A true pleasure to connect with you guys. The I Love Seville show is up in 59 minutes. Take care. Very nice. Done. And let us know when we're off air there, Judah.